Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print, the Force is with the readers, and we would go back to the past to 1980 for an unusually poignant and kind of cool Marvel story here. My name is Nathan B. Butler, I am your host as always, and this time we're taking a look at a story in issues number 35 through 37 of the Marvel Comics series. First, as always, let's take a quick look at the covers here and what the titles are for these issues. It's a 3-issue story arc. It's one that's leading up very quickly to The Empire Strikes Back. In fact, the last issue even says, and I love the way that this winds up playing out, the last issue says, at the bottom there, next, the most eagerly anticipated saga of them all begins. Marvel's adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back. Only, yeah, it didn't, because they had to have a filler issue in the middle until they started their adaptation, because I guess the schedule wasn't quite right compared to where they wanted to be. One of those quick bait-and-switch type of things, and we'll see that and what that story wound up becoming in a future episode of From the Star Wars Library. But this time we're dealing with 35, 36, and 37. This is issue number 35. Darth Vader plays a game of death against the Star Warriors. Dark Lord's Gambit. And of course, aside from Luke having, again, a red stinking lightsaber, obviously, this is not a real thing. This is not Dark Helmet playing with his dolls again. It's symbolic. Though I find it really kind of cool that this has shown up on t-shirts lately. I've had a student show up this year, 2012, fall of 2012, wearing a shirt with this image on it. I was so proud, though he wouldn't have been able to tell you where it came from other than Star Wars. He wouldn't be able to tell you it's an old Marvel cover here. But Dark Lord's Gambit is the first part of this multi-part storyline. Then we have issue number 36. This time, the Force is against Luke. Red Queen Rising. And then we have number 37, in Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat! Anyway, this is, of course, Vader there with the red lightsaber. At least it's supposed to be Vader there. Luke standing up with his lightsaber. Holy crap, it looks like they're about to duel, but The Empire Strikes Back isn't out yet. These were released back in January through March of 1980, albeit granted with May, June, and July cover dates because that's when you take them off the shelves. You can find these, by the way, in the pages of Star Wars Omnibus a long time ago, Volume 2, these days, of course, recolored and whatnot here. Now, if I were to ask you, and ask many modern EU readers, at what point did Darth Vader learn the identity of the rebel who destroyed the Death Star? When did he learn Luke Skywalker's name? You would probably say in the pages of Vader's Quest. Vader's Quest was a mini-series from 1999. And in this particular story, you had this kind of poignant moment where this beaten-up rebel says, Skywalker. And it reveals to Vader for the first time Luke's identity. And he says, Centauri's, the Museum of the Old Republic, now closed. Kind of cool that it is Centauri's, which of course plays back into what we get in the Marvel series. It's one of those Marvel series locations. And it is from here that the story continues in Vader's Quest, but that was the moment he learned Luke's identity. Only that story had already been told. Granted, at this point, the Marvel series was not considered in continuity when this was being published, and granted, Star Wars has a tendency to retell the same stories over and over again. Hans Kessel Run. How does he wind up dumping the spice that gets Jabba all ticked off at him? How did the rebels get the Death Star plans, and so on and so on. Keep getting retold and retold and retold and retold. But, in this case, what we get is an odd tale. We have something very similar in the Marvel comic. Tell me his name. Luke Skywalker. The story this time by Archie Goodwin with Carmine Infantino, of course, doing the art. And it's not the same place. It's a battlefield. Rebel has collapsed there down onto the ground. What they've essentially done is they've said that that one in the Marvel series, well, even though it was the first published way that Vader found out that Luke was the rebel that destroyed the Death Star, no, Vader's Quest is still the way he found out, kind of making this one into either a retelling of that scene in a different way, or maybe later confirmation of the same information very soon thereafter, so that Vader's Quest can still take place, but then this and its subsequent events can also take place within the same continuity, without it being something where you know, Vader at this point is still searching because he's found out the answer. In fact, he found out the answer twice at this point. We're going to focus on the Marvel issues here. Eventually, we will get to Vader's quest when we get to the year 1999 in the publication cycle here, which at this point will probably be once I turn 40 or something like that. So let's go back to the Marvel issues here. What we have is kind of interesting. At the end of Thunder in the Stars, we had the Rebel ships, after beating the Omega Frost, flying in and attacking a Tag family vessel. What winds up playing out after that, apparently, was that the Rebels got back to the Millennium Falcon. All the Rebels got back to the Millennium Falcon, and there's this huge battle against that Tag family cruiser that winds up essentially destroying it. However, even though Orman Tag, the Baron, who we've seen dueling Luke before, even though Orman Tag was aboard and so was his brother Silas the Scientist, the creator of the Omega Frost, they don't die. Instead, Vader saves them and essentially keeps them in these stasis kind of life support type chamber things, but he's not letting anyone know that they are still alive, except for Ulrich Tag, right? The general brother, the one that they originally meant to be the one in A New Hope, although it's not, because that's Cassio Tag, we wound up finding out. Ulrich, at this point, is in line to become the next Baron, as long as, now that Cassio is dead, right, on the Death Star, as long as the other brothers, Silas and Orman, stay dead, stay assumed to the world to be dead. That leaves Ulrich alive and well, and he delivers the news to their sister Domina. Now, Domina was sent away by Orman to the planet Monastery to join this mystic order, and they got a pretty cool shot here of the monks coming down the ramp here, kind of a nice widescreen type shot here. She is part of the Order of the Sacred Circle. She is Sister Domina, with her last name of Tag not being revealed yet. That leaves basically him and her. Ulrich goes and tells her what has happened. She was sent away to keep her innocent by Orman, and she loved Orman more than just about anyone else in the galaxy. And now seeing that Orman is dead, supposedly, sets her on a collision course with taking down Luke. Only that means working with Darth Vader. And Darth Vader was her brother Orman's greatest enemy, his adversary for the Emperor's attention. So she comes up with a way to sort of work for Vader against Luke, while at the same time trying to trap Vader as well, kind of playing both sides against the middle to try to take out both of her brother's enemies, or her late brother's enemies, thinking, of course, that he is dead. She sort of renounces this religious lifestyle and instead tries to kill both of them, or to have them take each other out. Now, this is a big deal because this Order of the Sacred Circle is apparently a major religious movement in the galaxy based in Monastery, or on Monastery, and if they were to swing their support toward the Alliance, or the Empire as the case may be, they've been neutral, it could sway public opinion in the direction of either of those and possibly, you know, change the number of people joining either side and possibly tip the scales of the Galactic Civil War. It is a big deal if they were to join. So they need to send a diplomat, and what she's arranged is for the Empire to send one diplomat, Vader, and for the Rebellion to send one. And she decides, kind of as hinting and pushing, she sort of convinces the Rebellion's leaders that it's their decision, even though it's hers, to send Luke and not Leia. Although Leia and Han and them will show up in the Millennium Falcon, kind of up in orbit to keep an eye on things here. Now, while Luke is on the planet, she keeps sabotaging his efforts to do what needs to be done to get the favor of the Order of the Sacred Circle for the Rebellion. She eventually winds up being put in charge of the entire Order and turns on him immediately. Meanwhile, the Millennium Falcon is captured by a Imperial freighter up in space, right? The one that Darth Vader took to the planet. And while they're briefly in custody, Leia winds up running around trying to avoid being captured and such, and manages to accidentally, apparently, awaken Orman Tag. Orman manages to make his way down to the planet, and that's when things start to get even more interesting. You get this crazy moment where Luke and Vader are sent to this Crystal Valley type place where there's these huge crystals just like slamming up from the ground randomly. You know, they could very easily kill you. Man, I'm having trouble with this. Could very easily kill you if you were to be around them as they spring up. They're also very heavy, so if one falls down, it could very easily crush you. Vader and Luke are supposed to essentially duel to settle their differences, settle who should get whose support in this whole issue with the Order of the Sacred Circle. And we wind up seeing what we think at first is a battle, a duel between Luke and Vader. Not one in a dream state, but an actual duel between Luke and Vader before The Empire Strikes Back, only to eventually find that no, this was all a trick. It was an illusion used to sort of prove Luke's weakness, and it wasn't actually Vader he was fighting. When he kills him, it's discovered that it was actually an illusion placed over Orman Tag. It was Luke versus Orman in a rematch this time. Luke has won. Orman Tag is dead. Domina's mission has wound up killing the man that she was trying to get revenge for. It's sort of a bittersweet type of tragic end to her for all of her scheming that was involved in this story. Interestingly, though, what does Vader say about this once Luke kills Orman? Vader says, "The purpose of the illusion, the reason he was made to fight in my place, in part its final punishment for any inconvenience his foolish rivalry caused me. In the main, it demonstrates how far you're out of your depth, novice. You and your way with the Force have been an unknown factor, a factor that's upset me on several occasions. No more, Luke Skywalker. I've thoroughly tested you, made you perform in a hostile environment, probed your emotions by placing your friends in jeopardy. I now know your limits, and your limitations." Luke responds saying, "Then you know something else. I'm learning. I can change. I can grow." To which Vader replies, "When your only instructor is dead, by my hands? An amusing notion, puppy." He calls him puppy repeatedly in his story. It's a little weird. "Have you the courage to pursue it? Come, only a few steps separate us. I'll give you the first blow." But of course, it's a trap to get Luke to walk into one of those crystal things. Luke realizes it, and by the time he recovers from dodging it, Vader is gone. The stage is set for Domina to continue hating him, and also for the upcoming confrontation in The Empire Strikes Back. Moreover, we have an interesting twist here. In The Empire Strikes Back, of course, Han still owes Jabba the Hutt money. Only in issue 28, whatever happened to Jabba the Hutt, it seems as though that debt was cleared. Not anymore. As a cool way to bring this back about so Han is back in the same place as he was before, it turns out that Jabba the Hutt, again shown here as Mosep, not actually Jabba the Hutt the way that we think of him, Jabba the Hutt finds Crimson Jack's ship, left drifting in space after that storyline back on Drexel. And it turns out that Jabba the Hutt was a backer on helping Jack refit the cruiser, so some of his investment is gone. Jabba has just lost money. That amount is about the same as what Han owed him in the first place, so now Han owes him again. The bounty is back on, as Han finds out, facing off against a bounty hunter. And Han decides that his only chance of having a chance to dodge this and a way to continue moving forward with life with the bounty hunters coming after him is that the only place they're welcome is with the rebels. There you go. It's why Han's with them in The Empire Strikes Back, at least according to the Marvel era. A cool 3-issue storyline and culminating a lot of the things that we have seen earlier in this series. So, this storyline, Dark Lord's Gambit, Red Queen Rising in Mortal Kombat, is it an essential read? I would almost say yes in the overall scheme of things, but if you read this, you do kind of have to know a little bit of the Tag family background. I would say at least that it's kind of cool to see the way that they turn things out here. I'll go ahead and say it's not an essential read for the mainstream Marvel reader, or the mainstream modern reader. It is an essential read for the Marvel reader. It's a heck of a storyline, one of the best in the pre-Empire Strikes Back era, and it sets up things to come. Very impressed with this issue, glad I got a chance to reread it for this video program. With that, let's wrap it up here. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the readers.